The Justice Department's document dump this afternoon does not comply with Thomas Massie and my Epstein Transparency Act. They released one document from a New York grand jury of 119 pages, totally blacked out. This despite a federal judge ordering them to release that document. Our law requires them to explain redactions. There's not a single explanation for why that entire document was redacted. We have not seen the draft indictment that implicates other rich and powerful men who were on Epstein's rape island, who either watched the abuse of young girls or participated in the abuse of young girls and the sex trafficking.
The Trump administration is trying hard to save their president's face from getting exposed in the biggest scandal in America's presidential history. After releasing a heavily trimmed set of Jeffrey Epstein files by the December 19th deadline, at least 16 documents have mysteriously vanished from the U.S. Justice Department's public webpage. The missing materials, including a photograph showing U.S. President Donald Trump, disappeared less than a day after being posted, with no explanation from the government and no public notice of their removal. The documents, which were accessible on December 19th but gone by December 20th, included images of paintings featuring nude women, as well as one file showing a collection of photographs displayed along a credenza and stored inside drawers. But that is not the real issue. What we're about to explain next is what's causing the real hoo-ha. Among the thousands of records released was a photograph showing an open desk drawer containing multiple images of Trump. The photos included one of him with young women and another featuring him alongside his wife, First Lady Melania Trump. The image was listed in the Justice Department's Epstein files under the reference EFTA 0000468. By the morning of December 20th, the photograph was no longer available in the department's official online archive. The catalog also showed a break in its numbering, jumping from EFTA 0000467 to EFTA 0000469, indicating that the file in between had been removed. Well, Trump and co.'s move couldn't escape the Democrats' eye. They caught it. Sharing the image, Oversight Democrats wrote on X that the photograph labeled File 468, featuring Donald Trump, had apparently now been removed from the DOJ's Epstein files release. They questioned Attorney General Pam Bondi and asked what else might be covered up, and called for transparency for the American public. The apparent deletion has fueled further criticism of the department's management of the Epstein document release, which covers more than 2 decades of federal investigations into allegations of sexual abuse involving young women and underage girls. Donald Trump's Justice Department faced legal threats and intense backlash after releasing a restricted and heavily redacted set of Jeffrey Epstein files, in what critics say appears to violate a legal requirement to make nearly all of the documents public by December 19th. The Justice Department's document dump this afternoon does not comply with Thomas Massie and my Epstein Transparency Act, said Ro Khanna, the California Democratic congressman who co-authored the law mandating full disclosure of all Epstein files by December 19th, said in a video statement.
The Justice Department's document dump this afternoon does not comply with Thomas Massie and my Epstein Transparency Act. They released one document from a New York grand jury of 119 pages, totally blacked out. This despite a federal judge ordering them to release that document. And our law requires them to explain redactions. There's not a single explanation for why that entire document was redacted. We have not seen the draft indictment that implicates other rich and powerful men who were on Epstein's rape island, who either watched the abuse of young girls or participated in the abuse of young girls and the sex trafficking. The reality is Pam Bondi has obfuscated for months. She first said there were no more documents to be seen. Now she's admitting and releasing hundreds of thousands of documents, but it is an incomplete release with too many redactions. Thomas Massie and I are exploring all options. It can be the impeachment of people at justice, inherent contempt, or referring for prosecution those who are obstructing justice. We will work with the survivors to demand the full release of these files, to demand justice for the Epstein class and accountability.
Thomas Massie warned that a future Justice Department could pursue charges against the current Attorney General, Pam Bondi, and others, stressing that the Epstein Files Transparency Act does not expire like a congressional subpoena at the end of a congressional session. Massie further sharply criticized the Trump administration over its partial release of Jeffrey Epstein-related files, accusing the Justice Department of flaunting a law passed by Congress this fall. In a post on X, urging followers to compare the Epstein Files Transparency Act with a DOJ letter to Congress claiming the right to withhold some materials. Reacting to the redacted release of Epstein documents, Trump loyalist turned foe Marjorie Taylor Greene wrote on X, "The whole point was not to protect the politically exposed individuals and government officials." Blasting the Trump administration further, MTG wrote,
"That's exactly what MAGA has always wanted. That's what drain the swamp actually means. It means expose them all. The rich, powerful elites who are corrupt and commit crimes, not redact their names and protect them. What happened to 'I am your retribution'? It's literally part of the bill I voted for, as stated here, and now it's law." B. Prohibited grounds for withholding. 1. No record shall be withheld, delayed, or redacted on the basis of embarrassment, reputational harm, or political sensitivity, including to any government official, public figure, or foreign dignitary.
I proudly rise today in a bipartisan effort to release the Epstein files, finally, after 5 administrations have covered it up. Earlier today, I attended the press conference where the survivors, they're not victims, the survivors of Jeffrey Epstein's sexual abuse and sex trafficking told their stories. And they told stories about how it started back in 1991, 1996, and they continued on through the decades. And they told stories about how they told someone and tried to get help. They told the FBI, and they weren't listened to. And they told law enforcement, and no one did anything. And these women don't just number a few. These women number around 1,000 women. And they are victims of something that's unthinkable. And this should have never, ever happened. This was the biggest fight I think I've seen in Washington, D.C. This is my 5th year here. And this was a fight that we should have never had to wage. It should have been the easiest thing for every single member of Congress. It should have been the easiest thing for the Speaker of the House. It should have been the easiest thing for the President of the United States to release all the information, every single file, on behalf of these American women. These American women aren't rich, powerful elites. They do not have someone paying for their airline tickets or paying for their trips or paying for their expenses every time they try to do something to get this information out. These are your average Americans. And you want to know what the Epstein files represent? The cover-up represents to average Americans. It represents the failures of the federal government and Congress to the American people. And that is what people rose up about in 2024. They wanted and demanded transparency from their government and for Americans finally to be put first. And today, with this vote, we are finally putting these victims and these survivors of Jeffrey Epstein and the cabal of rich, powerful elites that expands not just here in the United States of America, but to other countries as well. We're putting them last. And that is exactly what Americans want. You see, for far too long, Americans have been put last. And they're sick of it. They're sick and tired of it. And this is why they don't trust Congress. This is why they don't trust the government. And here's the problem. All of these women who have suffered in shame for years and years and years, women who were terrified, women who were intimidated, women who were threatened, just like Virginia Giuffre. And now she's dead. And these women should have never faced that, for this information to come out. And we, especially the 4 Republican members of the House of Representatives, we should have never faced intimidation and threats for us to get this vote to come to the floor. Never forget, there were 4. Thomas Massie, myself, Nancy Mace, and Lauren Boebert. We had to sign a discharge petition, and we had to fight through intimidation, and we had to endure it for months to push that discharge petition finally to 218 to get this vote to come out. This is what the American people are sick of, and rightfully so. Now, where does this go from here? The question will remain, will the Department of Justice release all the information? Will a judge in New York release the information? Will the CIA release the information? And will foreign governments release their information? Or will this continue after this vote today be a cover-up? A cover-up of the rich, powerful elites that bond together in sex and human trafficking abuse and all types of global business that enriches them but never serves Americans. The American people will know, and the victims, actually the survivors of Jeffrey Epstein, will know, because they know the list of names. And I remain dedicated to my promise to read those names here on the House floor if those women ever find them in a place that it needs to be done. I yield back to Mr.
Gentlelady
Massey.
from